Shut up, you miserable buzzard. Stoning people who piss you off is perfectly okay. They do it in the Bible, don't they? I got a lot of peas. Welcome to the Hey Guys podcast. I'm Rob Liam, and this week for our final in the End of the World season, we watched The Mist. Adapted from a Stephen King story about a supernatural mist that houses sinister creatures and traps a bunch of patrons inside the local supermarket. We follow David, an artist who just wants to keep his son safe, but whose natural leadership consistently shines through. But it's not the monster out there you have to worry about, though. It's the human monster. When people are scared, they look for solace wherever they can get it, even if it's in the beautifully evil Mrs. Commodity. Now, never has a character done so well before in making me hate them. And I tell you, I have no idea why I did this to myself. On the back of the second episode of The Last of Us Season 2, I chose this film as well, which means I must be a glutton for punishment this week. As a man who Liam likes to say is dead inside, this week's viewing choices have certainly shown a spark of feeling. I haven't watched this film since becoming a father, and man, I felt it. All the things David did to protect his son, all of those choices right up until that harrowing ending. A film's ending hasn't hit me as hard as this film did. We've always called it harrowing, but for some reason it was worse this time around. Still, no tears, but I definitely felt my heart skip and had to hold my breath. Feeling all of David's screams. Now, Frank Darabont, you absolutely beautiful, evil bastard. I mean, what an ending. I'm going straight to the ending. What an ending.
Well, it's the only place to start really with this movie because it's become somewhat infamous for that ending. You know, there's like in the big list of, I guess, most depressing endings in movie history, I guess you'd have like The Green Mile, which is another Frank Darabont film. $1 Million Baby is not the most depressing ending. It's the most depressing second half of a movie I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That film fucking slaughtered me. Dancer in the Dark, which is a Lars von Trier film with Bjork. And I was like, oh, cool, a musical starring Bjork. I literally had no idea what this movie was. It came on TV. It's 3 hours of absolute fucking misery and one of the saddest endings of all time. Requiem for a Dream, famously miserable ending from Darren Aronofsky, and Grave of the Fireflies by Studio Ghibli. Not a Miyazaki film, it's Isao Takahata, I think it is. But those are some of the movies where I think of where I'm like, oh man, those had like proper bummers of an ending. I think this tops all of them because of the way it goes down, because of that shock value. And I try and remember back, and this is weird because you're watching it in a different way now because you've got a kid. And this is the first time I watched this for ages. And I tried to remember that impact the first time I watched it when he's just capped everyone in the car, including his own son. And they go out of their way to have him look up at his dad just before he does it. Fucking brutal. And when that tank came through the mist, I audibly said, no fucking way. I could not believe it. Watching it now, it is borderline laughably tragic, the end of this film. It's so beyond, like when they're going through and he's just found his wife dead and you're just like, oh, it can't get any worse than this. Oh, it can be. And you just like, you immediately think back, oh, if only he hadn't just managed to reach the gun. And I guess more importantly, if he hadn't killed everyone in the car, including his son, 20 seconds before the army showed up. It's an unbelievable ending.
That extra kick in the balls as well, as you see Carol from The Walking Dead with her kids as it goes past. And like, yeah, she made it. Like,
I forgot about that.
Hell.
And she's such a dick. And that's one of my issues with this film. I love this film. My only issue is it might have one too many bell ends in it, but we'll get to that in a bit. But she starts things off strong. You know, everyone remembers Miss Carmody, but what was her name again? Sorry, you said her name from Walking Dead.
Carol from The Walking Dead, Melissa McBride.
Thank you very much.
She's just credited as woman with kids at home. So
she is woman from kids. She's annoying straight away. Like they've literally just got in this clearly something fucked up, and she's putting pressure on everyone. Oh, won't you walk a woman home? It's like, no, I don't know who you are. I'm not going out there. That's on putting that on everyone in the shopping mall. Shopping. What are we calling it? Not a shopping.
It's a supermarket or grocery store, if you want to call it American.
Grocery store. Yeah, let's go with that. Grocery store. Putting that on everyone, I'm just like, I'm not keen on her at all. The fact that she survives, and then, of course, the more you think about it, you're just like, oh, I suspect everyone left in the store probably survived. There's no proof that Brent died, I don't think, even though he's a complete twat.
Yeah, he just disappeared, didn't he?
Yeah, so he might be alive, but you don't have any proof that the people in the store survived. But if you're going to bet on it, you'd be like, what? So they drove for max 8 hours, before they ran out of petrol. I have to assume if they stayed in the store, they're probably all okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah, because
yeah,
it's
fucking.
going
The more
back
you
that
think
way.
about it, the sadder it is.
Like, how far did she travel as well? Women with kids at home, because you said they drove until the petrol ended.
Mhm,
So I don't know how far they got. They stopped to admire, and my God, again, I haven't watched this film for so long.
mhm.
But did it feel like Stranger Things to you all of a sudden? And I know it should be the other way around. Stranger Things should feel like this, but
It
fucking the monsters and it felt like the Upside Down.
It did. I don't think it's any surprise that Frank Darabont has gone on to direct episodes of Stranger Things. So it's basically imagine Stranger Things. You take out all the fun 80s nostalgia and the kids having fun, and you just replace that with just sheer misery. Because it's not just the end. This is a front to back miserable fucking movie.
Yeah,
It is, and it is. It's a. It's a brave's one of those kind of weird words to use, weird terms to use. But I actually do think the way he's gone about making it, and especially with the ending to cap everything off, Frank Darabont could have made a more likable movie. He's gone for something which is grim from start to finish.
yeah.
The reason, I mean, one of the other minor issues with this film is the fact that some of the CG is starting to look a tiny bit ropey.
Yeah, those bug things started to look. I
Yeah.
mean, the spiders still look fucking great in
The
pharmacy,
spiders do, and the
but yeah,
tentacles look a little bit ropey. Part of that is 2007. The other part is the simple fact that this film had a really limited budget because Frank Darabont wouldn't back down on the misery. Most production companies turned this movie down. They're just like, dude, this is just too grim. Someone took a chance. It actually made decent. I think it made like 52 million or something like that. But he obviously had to put up with a much smaller budget than he would have got for the likes of obviously The Green Mile and Shawshank Redemption, which you would think he would get the financing. Like, he is Mr. Stephen King in many respects. He's coming off the back of both The Green Mile, Shawshank Redemption, beloved films. He's like, I'm going to do another Stephen King adaptation. You think everybody would be falling hand over fist to give him money. But they saw the script and they're like, God damn, dude, we're not giving you any money. But they did, and obviously it worked out. But yeah, Jesus Christ. Tough going.
oh, honestly, and I like what you said about the CG as well, but it kind of upset me as well, knowing that this film is nearly 20 years old. It's at 18 years old this year.
Dude,
Like,
that was rough. That was the roughest thing. As sad and depressing as this film is, the worst thing about it was suddenly like, I said to my wife, I was like, oh, this film's nearly 20 years old. She goes, no, it was released in 2007. I was like, yeah,
yeah,
nearly 20. I hate doing the maths. Maths
yeah.
always equals sadness now. As soon as you get into the 40s, just forget numbers. They're just going to upset you.
I didn't mind the Shermanator getting taken out. I like the way he got taken out with the tentacles and everything.
It's
I
pretty cool.
thought that was
But
okay. Yeah,
everything, right? Like you said, we can kind of pick nits with some of the CG
we
and the
can
fact that
picnic.
maybe we can picnic that there are too many douchey characters. But I really am picking nits. Like, this film is awesome, and the way, like, I forgot how gruesome this film is and how wild it goes. So it's bizarre because on the one hand, this is a Lovecraftian eldritch horror, with giant
Yeah.
monsters and
Mm.
tentacles and things from different dimensions. It's like proper cosmic horror when you stop and think about it. But it's combined with this kind of like social commentary or social experimentation, which is really the crux of the movie and the reason that this film is over 2 hours long. So we've done horror on this podcast a whole bunch of times, and the one thing we always come back to, and it's similar with comedy, we usually say, unless there's a really good excuse, horror shouldn't be much longer than an hour and 40. This
Yeah.
goes way
Yeah.
over that. It totally justifies it by being by being this kind of social experiment of a film. And a big part of that is, if you go to, like, you look at most horror films, they have like 6 or 7 key cast members because that's a manageable amount of people on screen. This has like fucking 40 people all in the same room for nearly the entirety of the movie.
That's what I wanted to say. It's great as well, considering 90% of it is in one location.
Yeah, yeah.
Like 90% of this film is in one location, and my God, like you say, the social experiment is probably the right way to say it. It's so good. You can clearly see who gravitates towards who.
Mhm.
I wish the butcher would have changed his clothes because he pissed me off.
Yeah, yeah.
Just, dude, you're stuck in, like, it's gotta be. I know the world's ending. I know things have shot through, but maybe I don't know. You didn't come to work in your butcher's clothes. Maybe go into your locker and get your normal clothes.
Yeah,
Just
yeah. I get it for the film. It makes sense
and
because you
all of
want to
you.
like differentiate people, but at the same time, when you think about it from a common sense perspective, you're like, dude, yeah, take off your apron, man.
Yeah, and all of you take your fucking aprons off as well. Like Sally, the babysitter, Ollie didn't take his apron off.
Yep, yep, yep.
For like, fuck me, just take your aprons off. But I do love the fact as well, Ollie just had his gun with all his rounds ready.
Oh, Toby,
Toby Jones, yeah.
Toby Jones is the secret MVP of this movie. Now, don't get me wrong. I really like Thomas Jane in this movie, as you mentioned in the intro, the kind of reluctant hero who, comes to the fore despite, there's nothing like naturally heroic about any actions in this film. He's just like more of a natural, albeit reluctant leader. But the MVP of the film is absolutely Toby, I keep going to say Toby Jones. Like it is Toby Jones. What am I talking about?
It is Toby Jones.
But this is one of those films that has like a low key, awesome cast. Like Thomas James David, Toby Jones, Andre Brower, William Sadler, Marcia Gay Harden as Mrs. Carmody, who we both despise. Everyone despises, but only because she's fucking awesome at being
she does it so well.
Evil.
Yeah,
but Sam Witwer, he's another of those guys who felt like he was going to be a big star, but he's got like a very memorable face. And anyone who's into Star Wars kind of knows him from the Jedi games and stuff. But
that's it. That's where he's made his money mind. He is fucking, because who is he now? He's pointy-headed spider guy, and I don't know Star Wars much.
Well, I thought he always played Starkiller, and I think they're planning on bringing him back to live action.
He is now the voice and of pointy-headed from fucking double lightsaber guy.
Oh, Darth Maul.
There you go.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, fair enough. No, that's absolutely fine. Although my wife said she doesn't know anything. She doesn't know Sam Witwer from Larry. Is that saying? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Yeah. But she just said the first thing she showed him, she goes, "Oh, I don't like him." I was like, "Why?" She goes, "His eyebrows don't match his chin. Also, his eyebrows seem very gay." Now, that's a weird thing to say, but don't worry about it, Sam. It's absolutely fine because my wife has the worst gaydar in human history. You know, like you'll be watching TV, like I just test her every so often, and I don't mean this in a critical way. Just some people, you see them and you're just like, well, he's just gay. Like you don't need to be told they're gay. And I say to my wife, I was like, you know he's gay, right? And she just looks at me. I cannot believe you can't peg that person as homosexual. This isn't one of the subtle ones where you're like, oh, they might be on the fence. This is like flaming. So the fact that she said Sam Witwer's eyebrows are gay doesn't mean anything at all because, like I said, her gaydar it's not off. It's non-existent. It's ludicrous.
Speaking of Sam Witwer and his homosexual eyebrows, I guess, him and his two friends were introduced into this film just to give you an explanation of Project Arrowhead. Because you don't get it in the book. They don't really explain it. It's just all rumors.
Which is good.
Yeah. But what I wanted to ask was, so he explains what's going on. You know, we were looking at alternate dimensions, blah, 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 yada, 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 and something's come through. When, in the history of film and TV, have you found a good alternate dimension? You've opened one up and somebody's gone, hi, nice to meet you. Yeah, come in.
Doesn't happen, does it? Doesn't happen. No. I mean, best case scenario, you could kind of go in and maybe take it over by force, but if you're the stronger element. But I don't think anyone's ever just opened a kind of parallel dimension. Everyone's just got on. It's all been sunshine and lollipops.
Nobody's ever found as well the weak parallel dimension then where they can go in and take it over. They've always found the one with I guess it's like hellscape. Like, yeah. So
it just never works out. And so I like the fact that they don't even really try, like they explain it, but it's so low key. And I think that speaks, we were saying about it being like a social experiment more than anything else. Like this, in many respects, is like one of those big question movies. It's like, don't worry about like the gateway to another dimension. And we just want monsters. We just want to basically, what this movie is really about is putting normal quote unquote, normal people under extreme duress and putting them all in the same room. So it's like the big question in this film is, how quickly do things go south? How quickly does any sense of civilization collapse? And the idea that all you need is one strong character to lead the weak down the wrong path. So that comes back to Mrs. Carmody. It's like, of course she's a psycho. And everyone at the start is like, well, she's out of her mind. But once things start going really horribly, people they just want someone with answers. And she, even though she's out of her mind, she's providing answers, which are providing comfort. So
they're seeing what they want to see.
Exactly.
They see what they want to see. They see the fact that she doesn't get attacked by the monsters because she's prayed. So the Lord is protecting her. All right. So, okay, maybe we and
I love that scene because it does just enough to kind of justify why people would see that and be like, oh, maybe she is in contact with the Lord. Really, all that's happening is that giant bug is acting like a bug. So it's like if a wasp lands on you, you're only likely going to get stung if you start waving your arms around. If you just stand still, it'll just chill and then it'll fuck off. And that's what the giant bug does. But
Yeah.
of course, people read, and it's not just people read into that. She'll tell everyone, oh, look, it's a sign. I'm clearly a messenger from God. She's out of her fucking mind. So I like that idea that if somebody with a strong enough message, under, again, extreme duress, just how quickly things can go south. And I guess that's my big question with this film. And one of the issues you might have with it is, do you buy into the idea that things could go that bad that quickly? And I kind of went back and forth, but the more I thought about it, it's like, sorry to just while I have this train of thought, is that usually in a movie, everyone starts acting like they would in a movie. They start doing things, blah, blah, blah. This really gets down to the whole, like, we can't actually get our head around. What would you do if all of a sudden you're just going about your day and then suddenly you're being attacked and murdered by giant tentacles? It's beyond comprehension. And, how quickly would people just like turn to the Lord, turn to just to anything, just to kind of try and not have to mentally deal with what's actually happening? I'm like, yeah, I think it would probably go down that quick.
Hang on, I need to go back now because I love how you said train of thought. Then you killed my soldier
Oh,
train
I'm
of
sorry,
thought about 10 minutes ago.
I fucked it.
I wanted to mention about. I'll go back to your point in a second. But I just want to mention about the train because what brings more gravitas as well when you got the soldiers and they talk about it and you get that they tell you about Project Arrowhead is the fact that the two soldiers killed themselves because they know they've done something wrong.
Yeah,
and it brings gravitas. Right, all right. Well, this is our problem. We caused this. There's no way out of it. And then obviously Private Jessup just gets fucked up and sent out to his death. Going back to what you said then about everyone gravitating towards Mrs. Kamadi, it's very interesting because you want to just say the weak. The person in me wants to say the weak-willed or the weak-minded gravitate towards her,
or just really scared. That's all.
But that's what I want to say. Yeah. So, but if it goes to pot that fast, if the world starts falling around you, you are going to look for answers in probably the wrong place. And
I think it's just that it's the only one. She's the only one in there providing any kind of answers. Everyone else is just.
But if you think about it,
dude, just tentacles, and I do like.
She's not the only one providing answers.
No,
she is providing, but she's providing, I guess, the stronger argument because you've got David and them guys speaking absolute truth, saying this is what needs to happen. This is what's going to happen if we stay here, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And I like what you said at the end. Well, if they did just stay there, they might have survived. But you don't know that. You can't know that the army's on the other side of that mist.
No, of course not. Of course not.
So you go for the answers that are in front of you. And no easier one than, was it William Sadler? William Sadler.
Awesome in this. Another awesome performance.
Hates Mrs. Kamadi at the beginning, calls her names, everything.
Is it comedy or comedy?
Carmody, comedy, I would say.
Okay, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. He hates her. He calls her names, calls her fruit and everything like that. And then, but the decisions he's made, the things he's seen, because he's already been a bit of a dick. I mean, he sent Shermanator to his death. Oh, you should have said what you said, David. We didn't believe you. How did we know what was outside?
Well, again, that was another one of those just low-key moments of kind of social experimentation where it's just like, all right, we're going to have this moment of toxic masculinity, of just being like, getting on top of a kid where he just like, he doesn't want to look like a pussy in front of the guys. He even calls David a pussy. He's acting the tough guy. And they're just playing up to it. And even at the start, they kind of play up with the whole hillbilly thing. So it has all these moments throughout, and everybody has their ups and downs. And obviously with Brent, just doing the whole, like, I just refuse to believe what's going on. It's just like, and you can see, it doesn't actually make any sense. He's clearly an intellectual guy. It's like, there's no reason in the world why all those people would be fucking with him, but he's clearly just terrified. And that's his way of dealing with it. It's just complete denial.
I looked at that differently. It's not so much terrified. Maybe he is scared. Everyone's scared. So there's a bit of that. But for Brent, it's more because he's the outsider. He's had this argument with David already about the tree. The tree finally blew over and did what David said it was going to do. So now Brent is like, oh, well, no, now you're making me look like an idiot again in front of... Like, because he's a high-powered lawyer, isn't he? In like the city, New York or wherever it is.
Yeah.
So he's come down. So he's the outsider. So he's not going to think anyone... He's not going to take... They're all hillbillies to him.
Yeah, but I think
he's not taking his style. And I think they're just taking the piss. He thinks they're taking the piss out of him constantly.
I don't think that's the case. I think there's an element of that at the start. But it goes so far beyond that. And I think he's just using that as a defense mechanism. Eventually, he's just like, oh, no, you're just winding me up, because he doesn't want to go back there and find a tentacle because he can't explain it as much as anyone else.
Yeah,
so
but if he's scared, he wouldn't have left. If he's that scared, he wouldn't have left.
Oh yeah, but there's again, I think it's the defense mechanism. Just like, oh, this is nonsense. I want to leave. If I go back there and see a tentacle, I'm not going to leave. So I think there's all these like subtleties about how people are dealing with it in different ways. And I think the Miss Comedy thing, the smart thing about it, like you say, with William Sadler's character, for instance, who's just not on board. It's the scene that really kind of breaks the movie in a bad way. I mean, in terms of like breaks it open to many respects, is the scene when they go to the pharmacy next door. Because, like you said, on the one hand, you've got David and everyone else trying to take a kind of sensible approach of like, this is what we need to do. And of course, their sensible approach is a fucking disaster. Most of the people die. Everyone who comes back's terrified. They're coming back with these horror stories. You know, however bad you think it is, it's so much worse. Because make no mistake, this film's fucked up all the way through. I forgot just how fucked the scene at the pharmacy is. Honestly, after the scene in the pharmacy, if I was there, I might have run into Miss Carmody's arms. That's how I thought they did a great job of justifying everybody moving over to her in her preaching, because if you went next door and you're trying to do the right thing, and the first thing you run into is a dude who like literally explodes with spiders, and the fucking spiders have webs which are made out of acid. It's literally Frank Darabont at that point going, what would just be the most horrifying thing in the world? And that's the great thing about Lovecraftian eldritch horror, is that you can literally say, I'm just going to make it whatever I want. There are no rules. And he goes all in, and it is so horrifying and so fucked up. You can imagine people would just come back and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to go with the Lord, because obviously common sense and trying to do everything is just going to get me killed. Maybe this woman and her connection to God is the answer. So yeah, I thought they did just enough to justify that kind of move for most of the people in store.
So I don't think I'll ever be in that position. I mean, never say never, but I don't think
oh no, I am joking.
Is going to come at me. But I don't know. Like, I don't like people at the best of time. So when you've got somebody who just stands in front of you and starts sprouting that shit, I would just take an instant dislike and be, no, I'm good.
Of course, because you're a level-headed human being, and like everyone else, like you say, it's the weak-willed who get dragged along into this. But we should mention the fact that she is one of the great movie assholes in cinema history, as far as I'm concerned. Although Bethan, actually, she chose Brent, Andre Braugher. She couldn't stand him. She was just like, oh, no, I can't stand, like, he's so obdurate and so unwilling to believe. It drove her up the wall. But, I mean, when I was looking at Miss Carmody, the only ones I could come up who maybe even come close to how annoying she is on screen. So you got Jar Jar Binks. Some would say Ruby Rod from Fifth Element. I actually quite like Ruby Rod. Jenny from Forrest Gump. She's fucking up there, that bitch. Mr. Potter from It's a Wonderful Life. I'm not sure if you've seen It's a Wonderful Life, but he's a prime bellend. Denethor, was that his name from Return of the King? I'm not sure. Are you a Lord of the Rings guy?
No, I've seen him, my dad.
Oh, he's the guy in the guys. I can assure you, he's a complete twat. Percy Wetmore in Green Mile. Just to show that he's great at Frank Darabont specifically is great at putting bellends on screen. And another one of his, Warden Norton from Shawshank Redemption, another just completely unforgivable character. I don't think any of those are as annoying as Miss Carmody. And as much as Bethan, my wife, said she hated Brent, she actively cheered and clapped when Ollie shot her in the stomach and the head at the end of the film. I mean, I'm not sure if there's ever been a more cathartic murder in movie history. When he shoots, because Ollie's awesome as well. And when he shoots her, you just say, oh, thank fuck he shot her. It's just such a shame that like 2 minutes after he shot her and had his like hero moment, he dies totally unceremoniously on the way to the ground.
Yeah, it was a pity, his death. But I did like the interaction he had with David as well when he shot her, and he said, oh, I had to shoot her. And he said, thank you, Ollie. And then he explains, I wouldn't have done it, but she wouldn't let us leave. And he said, no, that's why I said thank you.
Yeah, like, no, it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah. Hey, do you know the guy at the beginning, the other dude in the car at the end, Dan Miller?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. He's in loads of Darabant's movies.
Yeah, so he's the one to come running, saying there's something
with the
in the
bloody
mist,
nose
and
everything. Yeah.
So obviously, you said he's in loads of Darabont movies. He was one of the guards in Green Mile.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We've done another. Well, we might have done a couple. I haven't looked at his full IMDb yet. But do you know of one film that we've done of his? Yeah.
It's not coming to mind.
No?
No. Surprised me.
He was Sheriff Herb in The Blob.
Oh, shit. He did not die well in that film at all.
No.
I mean, he died a lot better in this. I was trying to think who died the worst death in this film. Sally died poorly when she got stung in the neck and her face kind of blew up. That was pretty gross. And obviously there was the dude who got burnt alive. That's the worst thing that can happen in this kind of film. It's not people dying, it's people suffering horrendous injuries and then hanging around. And you're like, fuck, we've got to try and help them, even though they're clearly fucked. But again, I think it's the fact that the horror in this film, even though it's obviously all consuming because of the mist, in terms of the violence associated with it, it's relatively limited. But when it happens, it's like, God damn, this movie is not fucking around.
No.
But that's a Stephen King film for you. And there's nods to Stephen King right from the odd. I'm sure you noticed, obviously David being a painter, that he's painting the Dark Tower at the start of the film.
Yeah. Obviously. And behind him, the one thing I never noticed before, because I've noticed him painting the Dark Tower before, he's got the Thing poster.
Which is weird, right? I've got to ask you about this. Are they suggesting that he did the poster art for 1982's The Thing? Because that means he would have done that when he was 13 years old, which seems like a fucking stretch. Or was that just happens to be one that he loves?
I'm just going to guess it's like, as an artist, it's something he's appreciated. As a poster guy, a guy that draws the posters. I'm going to assume that that's something like, because that is a fucking fantastic poster. It is great.
And in fairness,
I love the Dark Tower one is great, and what an Easter egg as well. Because that's when I was reading them at that point, 2007. So that's when I was in the middle of the book. So to see that pop up and you think, what an Easter egg! Oh, that's great. I wonder if we're going to get Dark Tower. 18 years later, we did get one of them.
It's weird now. We seem to be mentioning the Dark Tower in every podcast. We mentioned, didn't it come up last week? The whole Mike Flanagan TV show. We mentioned that on our Mad Max Beyond Thunder Zone podcast. But yeah, I thought that was a cool start. And it's nice to have like a little Easter egg, especially one which isn't necessarily like super obvious. It wasn't like he was painting Pennywise the clown. It's like back in 2007, unless you read his books, you're not going to know what the fuck that is because there was no TV adaptation or anything like that. Yeah. But yeah, hopefully somebody will do it the right way. But yeah, right from the off, I was on board with it. Like even just like the low key moments, like Brent when he goes round to his garden after the storm, and he's just raging like fuck at the chainsaw. Like obviously they're trying to establish what kind of character is straight away, low, high temper, all that jazz. Oh, his character trait is basically angry and litigious, but whatever. But I could so strongly kind of recognize myself in that moment where something every day which you just feel should work. It's like if it's the end of the world, I feel like I might actually deal relatively well with that. But if the chainsaw that's supposed to work doesn't work, I'm fucking losing my mind. That's the kind of stuff which just sends me straight into a rage. It's ridiculous.
But he did that before the world was actually end in mind.
Yeah, so, that's what I mean.
Was that storm part of the mist, or was the storm just a precursor?
I think it was just a
coincidence, yeah. Because I thought it might be a precursor to the mist.
Yeah.
But then I think no, because it must be a coincidence. Because the three guys were on leave, so they were at the base the day before when the storm was the night, and then they're on the bus ready to go. So if they caused the storm, they wouldn't have let them leave all of a sudden.
Maybe they didn't realize it was going to lead to what exactly happened. But yeah, I like the idea that it's a precursor to the mist. I mean, it's kind of like up in Edinburgh. Like if you ever have a sunny day up in Edinburgh in Scotland, we have a thing called the Ha, where basically it's just the fog comes in off the Forth. Much like, like the bit in the film where she can see the fog coming in. She goes, that's weird. You see it all the time in Edinburgh. If I thought that was a danger, I would move away, basically. But every time you have a sunny day, you're like, oh my God, a rare sunny day, you're treated the next day by just thick fog coming in off the walls. It's just one of those things. Luckily, without all the monsters. But shit's about to go down when you hear an air raid siren. There is just something inherently terrifying. And I know obviously people associate it with war and blah, blah, blah. What do I associate it with? Silent fucking Hill. It's like if I hear air raid sirens, I'm like, something horrendous about to go down.
Yeah, I mean, jumping into video game section, it's Silent Hill. Before you even ask me, it's going to be Silent Hill.
100%
you get the air raid siren, you get the mist, the monsters, you're just in the Silent Hill hellscape.
Yeah, it's just how you turn it into a video game. But I know exactly how to turn it into a video game. But we'll get to that in the video game section, funny enough. But yeah, I love movies. And, we've already talked about this to a certain extent. As you said, the whole, the idea that the soldier's there, but it's never really explained to any great extent what's going on. I love it when there's just that sense that something massive is going down. So you see all the army, there's the air raid sirens, all that jazz. So something big's going on, but you only deal with it in a really small way. And it never cuts away to a guy in a room explaining, oh, this is happening on this giant scale. You just kind of go, oh, well, this could be happening just in within a mile, or it could be literally the end of the world. And you never know.
Yeah.
And I'm absolutely fine with that. Although obviously you get a hint that the scale was pretty widespread towards the end. But they seem to tidy it up pretty quick, though.
Well, I don't know, like it enveloped. That'll do. That work.
Yeah.
It enveloped the land around the mountain, Project Arrowhead. So I'm guessing as it's getting further and further out, it's starting to lose, I don't know, its consistency or whatever. And the question is, I know the mist brings the monsters. Do they survive because of the mist? Once the mist dissipates, do they die? Because you don't see the dead bodies or anything.
That's the thing. When you see that final shot, and the camera kind of pans back and you see the whole like row of soldiers and all that jazz, the mist is suddenly gone. So it's almost as if, and all I can think is like maybe fire is doing it because they're spraying a lot of fire around. And the idea is obviously, if you can get rid of the mist, the monsters can't survive it. It's basically like an atmospheric thing. I don't know. The fact is, it doesn't matter. Again, it's just an excuse to have giant, gross monsters. And it comes back to the idea for the novella itself. So I think the novella came out in 1980 as part of one of Stephen King's adaptations. And he needed one more story to complete the collection. And he said he'd kind of run out of ideas. And then he was suddenly in the grocery store and he was like, oh, imagine if a dragon just suddenly flew the fuck through the window.
Just looking at the giant plate glass window and thought, Yeah,
and that's basically that's the film. It's like, and then you can just go crazy from there. It's like, well, if there's a dragon, why couldn't there be giant tentacles and giant fucking spiders and go crazy as they obviously have. But everything else is to the why not important, because really the film is about what is happening in there and how quickly things devolve into absolute madness, which is awesome. Great way
so
to
it was released. It was released as a novella in 1980 as part of the Dark Forces anthology, which is a bunch of authors. But then it was added then to King's own collection in '85, the Skeleton Crew collection.
Yeah, that's where I read it, and that's the interesting thing, because obviously we've already talked about the ending. Do you prefer the ending from the movie to the ending from the book? So the book is a much more open-ended and in some ways much, more optimistic, even though they never get away from the mist. So there's never any sense that, the world's been saved, but they do survive. He doesn't kill everyone in the car. And I think it ends with David hearing like a faint radio signal saying Hartford. So even though they never get out of the mist. So on a grander scale, it's more depressing, but on a personal scale, there is that whole, they might get out of this. Whereas this one's oddly more optimistic in so much that, it looks like they've just dealt with the problem, but also on a kind of more micro versus macro level, he's also just fucking murked his son and everyone in the car.
But that's the issue as well, right? The son part of it.
Oh, rough, dude.
Yeah, I mean, take the other two. They haven't got much longer left. I'm sorry, the two in the back. They don't have much longer.
But they're like two of the most likable characters in the film.
They're lovely. They're fucking great. I want them to survive, but if they're not going to, they go first. I'm sorry, that happens.
Yeah, fair enough.
Amanda, played by Laurie Holden, perfect in this. She's just met him and she gravitates toward David and Billy like I've never seen before.
She's another Frank Darabont alumni, isn't she?
Yeah. Oh, and she's so she was actually
Walking Dead as well.
With Dan. She was the one who because Jeffrey DeMunn, Dan Miller, he was the guy who owned the RV in The Walking Dead.
Oh yeah. And
Dale.
she was
Dale.
What was the other Frank Darabont film? It's a completely different to all the other ones. It's with Jim Carrey. She was like the lead actress in it. The Majestic. Sorry, The Majestic. It just popped into my head. which might be the first time since 2005 that The Majestic has just randomly popped into my head.
So she does, she's great. But again, okay, you're going to need, basically, all four of them need to go, even Tom Jane at that point, the father. Billy just, I don't know, I can't, mate, as soon as it's fucking awful.
Because we've said this on so many podcasts, a movie can be derailed quickly by an annoying kid. And he has like a tough role because he has to have that mental breakdown at the start where he just freaks the fuck out. The kid, I forgot the name of the actor. He's really good. He's really
Nathan
good.
Gamble.
Thank you very much. He's really good in this film. He's never annoying. It's totally understandable the way he reacts to everything. And just towards the end, it's like he's calming down. But as I said, and especially for you as a father, that moment when he's got the gun and he just kind of looks up to him like a fucking puppy dog and he's just like, well, I'm going to have to shoot you in the face right now. Oh my God.
That's
And
the
in
problem.
fairness, right, there's one thing ending the movie the way it is. I can't think of another movie which ends with ostensibly the hero of your movie screaming in abject terror. Because they're screaming, but Thomas Jane goes for it, and rightly
Yeah.
so, considering what's happened. When the tanks roll in and he realizes what's happened, it is complete despair on his face. Cue freaking credits. Unbelievable.
I At that point, I would grab the gun and I'd run at the soldiers.
Oh, and just end it, I
My
suppose.
wife is gone. I've just murked off three other people and my kid.
Mhm.
I'd grab the gun and just suicide by army guy. I'd
Maybe
have to,
I
dude.
mean, what is it? It's like, the sequel to, if you did The Mist 2, is it just 2 hours of just Thomas Jane's character David in just kind of, in sessions with a therapist? That could be the only way to go forward.
Couldn't do
Is
it.
there
There's
any
no
way you
way.
get
There's
over
no
that?
way to survive. Don't think you could
His wife's
because
dead. He's just killed his
yeah,
kid for no reason, and it's just the dude who threw away, he had a computer and it had bitcoins on there, and supposedly it's worth billions now, but he threw
yeah.
away the hard drive. It's like that at one end, you're just like, dude, you never get over that. You never get over the fact that you threw away that hard drive. I don't think you can ever get away from the fact that one, you shot your kid in the face, but two, if you had just given it another 10 seconds,
So
everything
that's the
would have been
problem, is
fine.
it? People around you will justify it if they knew the story. Look, you didn't know this. You tried to save them the only way you knew
Of
how. I
course, yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, you justify it, but in your mind, as the person that's just done that, no, 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 no. You've committed 4 counts of murder, and one of them was the worst count you could commit.
Well,
You've
that's the
killed
thing,
your
right?
own child.
If the movie ends and he just say he's got that fifth bullet, yeah, and he just kills himself and it's just credits and you don't see
Yeah,
the army or anything like that, you watch the film and you go he did the right thing. You
yeah.
don't want your son to get killed by those fucking horrible monsters. You don't want him to have to deal with the horror. Everyone knows what the situation is. He totally did the right thing to kill everyone. If basically if the tank doesn't show up and he's just fucking screaming because he's had to kill his son, you're just well, it's horrible, but you did the right thing. But because the tank comes up, you're like, oh, dude, the timing. My
Do you know?
goodness.
You know what you needed? You needed all five of them to go. So he's done the right thing. I'm all right with that. He's taken
Mhm.
himself out as well, so he doesn't have that devastation.
Mhm.
And then just as the credits roll, you need woman with kids at home as her hand reaches in and just takes the gun. She so
Oh,
you
yeah,
see
yeah,
her
yeah.
then. So oh yeah, she survived as well. So
He's
you
about.
still get that murk off like.
Sorry, I was talking about movies with depressing endings. Just talking about them remind me of another one I love as well, is The Descent, which has just got it
Oh, is
goes
that
through
when they
this.
pull her back in?
Yeah, well, no, spoiler alert
Oh,
if you haven't seen it. I'll just give you a second in case, because you should watch it and the end is amazing. So basically, the last 15 minutes is what the last survivor. She escapes from the cave and then she gets into a truck and she falls asleep and then suddenly she wakes back up, but she's back in the cave and you realize that she had just fallen asleep and she dreamt that she escaped and actually
oh.
she's just still stuck in the cave with the monsters. And you're like, oh my fucking days, that's depressing. This is even worse than that, but that one's pretty rough as well.
That was by
But
Neil Marshall, wasn't it? Who's given me two good films. For you three, I've never seen A Descent. I just knew the end, the
that's
kind of
awesome.
ending. So
It's his
uh,
best film, I think.
I don't know. Dog Soldiers is fucking great.
Oh, I really like Dog Soldiers. I think
Dog
The Descent is
Soldiers is
better, but Dog
fantastic.
Soldiers is ace as well.
And I'm not going to say the next one is fantastic, but I do enjoy it for all of the wrong
I
reasons.
know exactly what you're going to say, and it's the reason you're not going to say it is because it's not fantastic.
Go on.
With Ronan Mitra.
Yeah, Doomsday. I love Doomsday.
I do not love Doom. And just to be clear, I was so looking forward to Doomsday. I'm coming
Although
off
I tell you what,
fucking
well,
Dog Soldier, and I loved The Descent. And then I see this film, I'm just, oh, dude, it's set in the UK. I thought it was such a great idea of separating Scotland from the rest of the world. It had Ronan Mitra, who was the new hotness back in 2006,
2008. Yeah,
2008 when this came out.
yeah.
And I was so disappointed. It's not a terrible film. It was just massively disappointing. That's the problem.
But I mean, to be fair, he gave us the what's the word? Underappreciated 2019 Hellboy. I didn't mind that Hellboy.
I did not like that Hellboy at all, but after watching 15 minutes of the new Hellboy, I felt
I haven't watched.
oh,
I haven't
dude,
watched that yet. I can't bring myself to press play.
it's horrible. I remember sending you the trailer for it when
Yeah.
it first came out, and I was like, dude, this looks bad. This looks really bad. And I was right. I watched 15 minutes of it. It's just horrible. And I can't remember the name of the actor who plays Hellboy, but he has no gravitas. There are issues with Hellboy 2019, but it's not without merit. The latest one, it's like, has any fucking superhero gone through such a strange cinematic journey? It just keeps getting slowly worse and worse. It's really bizarre, but I don't know.
It does, yeah. I mean, to be fair, nobody had faith in that one after a while. Did they? Said, "Oh, it'll be better because Hellboy is meant to be like a confined character. Don't make it
Yeah,
big
yeah.
and grand and everything like that.
Mhm, mhm.
So we'll just take the Hellboy story and just have the spin-off they did, the Crooked Man.
Yeah, yeah, which isn't a
Yeah,
terrible
which is fine.
idea.
But then they went, oh no, actually, we can't be asked releasing this cinemas. Straight to video on demand.
Well, I think
Nobody
they knew
saw
what
it.
they had. I think they
Yeah.
knew exactly what they had. They saw it and just went, this just isn't very good, sadly. I'm not against the idea. I think after, because, you've gone big with Guillermo del Toro. If you're going to do it again, I like the idea of going gritty, smaller scale, like based on the specific comic that everyone loves, but it's just not a good film. But anyway, back to a film we do love,
Sorry,
which is this
but
one.
Hellboy was played by Jack Kesey, just
Oh,
because
thank you
you
very
asked.
much.
So
Well, he's
yeah.
just not very good, sadly.
No.
But yeah, speaking of like great things in this movie, I mean, I mentioned the pharmacy sequence as being absolutely elite, but even the scene earlier when the kind of dragon monster comes through the window for the first time,
Yeah.
I can't think of many movies which have shot Panic quite as well as this. And I'm not sure if you noticed, but a lot of the scenes are shot handheld. So I think Darabont actually filmed a few episodes of, I think it was called The Shield, the TV show, before he did this to kind of get used to that kind of guerrilla style filmmaking, which sounds weird for a film which is shot largely inside of a grocery store. But you'll notice that it's kind of not quite shaky cam, but the camera movement's very loose. I think he shot nearly the whole film with two cameras, and quite often they were just moving around each other, just trying to get that sense of mayhem and give you those moments, but never lose the kind of wider sense of like there's 30 other people in this relatively small room, and it's all going off. And those two sequences in particular, and I think that first one where they're all obviously in the grocery store and the bugs start coming through, and you just know that dude's going to set himself on fire. You're like, oh my God, that it's just like, it's so tense and so wonderfully shot.
I tell you what I couldn't believe was in a grocery store, a supermarket, whatever you want to call it, that nobody could find the lighter that worked first time.
Oh, dude, it was so infuriating. It was so. I was like,
It
someone
wasn't
has
just
to
one
like
lighter.
this.
It wasn't just one lighter. It was two or three. They just kept swapping them. Like, how are you?
It's such.
How are you in a supermarket and you can't find one that works? It's
It's such a
2007.
cinematic trope.
You should all be still fucking smoking. You should all have lighters.
You should. And the fact that they do have like three of them, but none of them are working. Like I said, I know it's a bit of a trope, but that was almost annoying. And they do, those are maybe the only times they push it, is like the lighter in terms of delivering that sense of panic, although it does deliver upon that. And as I said earlier, there are moments when you're like, how many dickheads can you get into one room? Like, can't we have just a few more? It was like, I think it was like the 5th season of Game of Thrones, where you're just like, oh my God, this is so depressing. Everyone is a dick. I'm not sure if it's quite to that level. But they could have maybe had one or two slightly more likable characters. Luckily, the old lady was super likable. When she threw the can at her and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's something just reassuring about an old lady giving everyone a dressing down. You're like, oh yeah, the world's back in order a little bit. That's quite nice. But the smiles are few and far between in this movie.
I just realized where I know. What a random place to remember her from. Sally, the babysitter, the one who
Gets stabbed in the neck.
Yeah, gay eyebrows is in love with. That's the whole reason he wants to go back to the.
Gay eyebrows. Yeah.
I just realized where I know her from.
What's that?
Do you remember the film Pitch Black?
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. So do you remember?
I tell you what, we should probably do that on the podcast.
Well, it's old enough.
Yeah.
There's the boy Jack who turns out to be a girl named Kyra. Mm-hmm. Right. So in the sequel, The Chronicles of Riddick,
not so good.
Not so good. But she's going by her real name, Kyra, now, and Vin Diesel goes to a prison to rescue her.
Mm-hmm.
That's her.
I would have never picked that. Although in fairness, I've kind of blanked that movie from my memory. And although I think I actually prefer that one to the third film, because I had really high expectations for the third film. I'm like, it's got a cool cast. They're bringing it back to its roots. And it was all CG. It looked horrible. I fucking hated the third film.
I bet you can't wait for the fourth one then.
I mean, the thing is, there's a good idea, and he's a cool character. So I still have faith in the idea that they could make another good film.
No, he was a cool character, right? But as he gets older now, he's no longer a cool character. He's a guy that just needs to let go. The third film was 2013. The next film that's coming out is going to be 15 years later.
I think if you deal with the fact that, we mentioned on the previous podcast, that whole idea of like, oh, do you want to see an old version of Mad Max? Do you want to see an old version of Conan? And I kind of do. As
I
long as
don't
you
want to see an old
deal,
version of Riddick. I don't.
Riddick's not as important. It's not essential. If you deal with his age the right way, I think it's more important that they just get the direction right, regardless of the character. It wasn't like I was watching the third film and I'm like, oh, Riddick's suddenly bad. I'm like, no, the movie around him is bad.
I do struggle with Vin Diesel, mind with his I have to be better than everyone. The last fucking Fast film where he one-armed the car.
I don't. I used to love the Fast films, and I thought the ninth one was just too far. I was just all right. I can't deal with this anymore.
The car's upside down or on its side at least.
Mm-hmm.
He dead like pretty much goes to the floor, one arms it up so it's upright.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why he's one armed is because all of a sudden he's got a gun in the other arm because now he is Super Soldier X or wherever it is.
Yeah, well, they all are. Yeah, it just goes like everyone knows the score. It reached this magic sense of alchemy in the fifth film. The fifth film was, for some stupid reason, you're just like, oh, they just found the balance. And you're just like, this film is legitimately something of an action masterpiece. And that was someone who didn't have any. I'd seen the other Fast and Furious films. I remember thinking the fourth one was okay, and then suddenly the fifth one came out. You're like, what the fuck has happened? How is this? How has it suddenly become this amazing action movie in the fifth film? The sixth film's okay. The seventh film had a wobble, and then all of a sudden they just fucking superheroes, and it just got too dumb. And I was just like, I'm not watching any more of these. I've completely checked out on Fast and Furious. In fairness, I checked out after 9 movies, but yeah, I don't need to see any more of that. Coming back to this film, before we wrap it up, where does this rank for you in the Stephen King adaptations? Because a lot of people talk about this as one of his best. Now, I think this is a really good film. I don't think it quite belongs, even amongst the down about films. Like, it's not quite up there with, say, The Shining, Stand By Me, Shawshank, and maybe, unless I'm missing one, they're probably my kind of big 3. Yeah, Shining, Stand By Me, Shawshank, probably the big 3. And then behind that, I've got films like Misery, Dead Zone, It, Christine, and Running Man.
I mean, you're going to be...
I'd probably put this in that kind of second tier, just behind.
You're going to be going for a while. I'm going to give you a list of... I mean, did you mention Misery?
I did. That was like the top of the second tier, just behind, like I said, in my head, The Shining, Stand By Me, and Shawshank are the best ones. Oh, and I didn't mention Green Mile's probably in that second tier as well.
It's really interesting to when it comes to Stephen King and the adaptations, because I don't know, I love those films, absolutely, but then I do have, I don't want to say soft spots, I just have enjoyable spots, I guess, for the likes of Christine, Cujo, Children of the Corn, the original
Christine,
one.
I really like Christine. I did mention Christine. Christine's in that second.
Oh, sorry,
tier.
you did. Okay.
Those other ones, yeah, they're kind of like endearing and quite fun in their own unique way. They don't belong in this conversation, I don't think. There were plenty of pretty dodgy Stephen King adaptations. I like fucking Thinner, which is a bad film. I quite enjoyed.
Yeah, Thinner's awful.
Needful Things isn't a great film. I kind of enjoyed it, but it's because I read the book.
Do you know what Thinner, right? Mm-hmm. The guy that starred in Thinner, who was RoboCop in RoboCop 3, but also played Seth in The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 2, which I've actually just mentioned today.
Unbelievable.
So,
unbelievable. We've come full circle somehow.
I'm gonna read out to you, right, the because you mentioned it now, the list of Stephen King adaptations. We could be here a minute, but you get
okay, maybe not the whole lot because there are so many.
Oh no, actually it's not too bad. So I'm gonna start off. No, I won't do the television, I'll just do the movies.
Yeah, just the movies, okay.
Yeah. So we've got a couple with his actual involvement, and this may be like, why, Stephen? But Creepshow,
good.
Cat's Eye, that was the anthology film from '85. Silver Bullet, I forgot he did Silver Bullet.
Never saw
that. The one with Corey
Haim.
I want to say Corey Haim, in the wheelchair with Gary Busey as his uncle.
I know the film, I just never saw it. So
Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah, the Coke film, yeah.
Creepshow 2, Pet Sematary, Thinner, A Good Marriage, Cell, and that was
that was John Cusack and Samuel L. Jackson.
That was a terrible adaptation.
Which is it was a shame because the story is quite good.
It Chapter 2. But then other film adaptations of his, Carrie, The Shining, Cujo, The Dead Zone.
Carrie. Carrie's up there as well, sorry.
Christine, Children of the Corn, Firestarter, Stand By Me, The Running Man, Tales from the Dark Side, The Movie, Graveyard Shift, Misery, The Dark Half, Needful Things, The Shawshank Redemption, The Mangler, Dolores Claiborne, The Night Flyer, Apt Pupil, The Green Mile, Hearts
App
in
Pupil's good.
Atlantis, Dreamcatcher, Secret Window, Riding the Bullet. Riding the Bullet's awful. 1408, No Smoking, The Mist, Dolan's Cadillac. Fuck me, that was 2009. That was what was his name? Christian Slater played Jimmy Dolan. Did you know that
Oh
story?
yeah. No, no, no.
So Dolan's Cadillac is about he's a gangster and he
Hmm.
has this Cadillac which is like kitted out like bulletproof and everything
Hmm.
like that. And he kills an investigative journalist who is our hero in
Hmm.
yeah. So our hero's missus.
Hmm.
So what he does, he takes a job as a construction on a road crew because Dolan keeps traveling back and forth from like LA to Vegas
Yeah.
on a and
I do. I've read the book. I've read the book.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, sorry.
No,
Never
no,
mind,
keep going,
yeah.
because obviously not everyone listening to this has.
And he basically he takes a job on a construction crew of a road so he can just basically bury the Cadillac. And that's what he
Mhm,
does.
mhm.
Just the Cadillac drives into it, and it's Christian Slater then just basically just trying to get out of the Cadillac for
Yeah,
like an hour and a half.
I honestly, I had no. I've read the short story. I had no idea it'd been turned into a movie. None
Yeah.
whatsoever. Unbelievable. But I've
So,
not heard anything there which is like breaking the top five. I don't think.
no, so and then we got Mercy, The Dark Tower, It, Gerald's Game,
No, game's good.
1922, the remake of Pet Cemetery, In the Tall
Solid.
Grass, Doctor Sleep, Children of the Corn, Firestarter again,
Mhm.
Mr. Harrigan's Phone, The Boogeyman, The Life of Chuck, Salem's Lot, and The Monkey.
I haven't seen the new Sims Art yet, but I heard it's okay. But I s-
It suffers because it's an hour and a half because they cut a lot of it out
yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
the.
I've heard the original, the TV movie is supposed to be really good. I've not watched that, which is ridiculous. But I've still got, even going through the whole list, I still got The Shining, Stand by Me, and Shawshank as the top three. As the kind of like the. Would you like put anything else in there, or would those be yours?
Well, I mean, I don't have the, and you mention all the time. I never want to actually uh, dash your hopes. Really, I don't have the attachment that you do to The Shining, the film.
Oh, it's a masterpiece.
Yeah, I see. I don't know if it is. I've seen it once. I don't really remember much about it. It's just not. It's not for me to go back. If we ended up doing it on this podcast, fine.
It's
But
just you and Stephen King on the other side of the bridge shouting, "It's
yeah,
not that good." And I was like, "Dude, it is. It is that good."
I mean,
The
Stand by
Shining is
Me's
a
up there.
masterpiece. Yeah,
Stand
Stand
by
by Me is
Me's up
amazing.
there. Uh, Shawshank, I think, is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Uh,
absolutely love that film.
so if you, The Shining is not your thing, would you have this up in the top three, or would you have, say, Misery, Dead Zone, It, Christine, Running Man?
It's probably I want to say Running Man. No, as much as
Running
I love Running
Man's
Man,
probably
ru-
like my
ru-
fifth. I love Running Man.
oh no, I love Running Man. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
Running Man is fantastic. As a Stephen King adaptation, it
yeah,
kind
yeah. It
of
does.
falls
It's
short of the
a
mark.
Schwarzenegger film. It's a
Yeah,
Schwarzenegger
yeah.
film.
Misery is fantastic. That'd probably be up there. It's really hard to say because
That's
I tell
another
you what I
surprising
do
one we
like.
haven't done. I feel like why
There,
the fuck haven't we done Misery?
there's one I mention a lot, and I'd love to go back to it. And I don't know if he wrote it as a book
Mhm.
or if he just wrote it. But there's a TV show, a three-party mini series called Storm of the Century.
Okay.
A Storm of the Century was fucking fantastic. It was an
Mhm.
island. This guy comes up called Mr. Langler. I can't remember his name.
Mhm.
And he says, look, the storm will go and I'll disappear. All I want is one of your kids.
Yeah, seems
And
reasonable.
yeah, because he wants like an apprentice to be the next devil, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's just about then, same as the film we're doing, The Mist. I'll bring it back to
Mhm.
that. It's about these people then the choices they make and what they do and like do they give him a kid at the end and
Yeah,
whose
yeah,
kid
yeah,
would
yeah.
they give and things like that. And it's I remember being a fantastic.
Well,
Uh,
I'd say speaking of films like high concept, because obviously that's like one of his kind of things beyond the horror. It's like a lot of his movies are fundamental, or his books are fundamentally based around some kind of like high concept idea, which this is to a certain extent. Like I said, it's like what would happen under these very specific circumstances.
yeah,
But we're going to get two of those, I think, this year. Like, so The Running Man is going to feel, I assume, a lot more like an adaptation of the Stephen King novella rather than
even to the point
Schwarzenegger
that
version.
the book was based in 2025.
Yeah, yeah. And the other one is it The Long Walk?
The Long Walk, yeah,
That's a great, again, high concept, works brilliantly as a novella. I'm not sure how it's going to work on screen, but I think it's fair to say we both love the book. Or
we both love them,
novella.
but they're Richard Bachman. Can you class them as Stephen King? I
Oh,
know
absolutely. Of course you
yeah,
can.
okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he's got Billy Summers coming out as well. I don't know if that's next year.
Oh, yeah, I quite like that book.
Yeah.
It hasn't stuck with me a great deal, but I do remember enjoying
That
it.
is a
But,
completely different Stephen King.
Oh, it really
Pretty
is. Well,
similar.
he
Yeah.
has tried a few things. And I guess, like, I know it's not a movie, but you have like Mr. Mercedes. Like, I love that trilogy and obviously the
Yeah.
spin-offs and everything. But we could go on and on. I think we should probably try and bring it back to the movie
It
we're
might
talking
be a
about.
good idea to try and move it on to the
Is
next
there
episode.
anything else you want to add before we move on to favorite scene? Because obviously we've already talked about the ending. The only thing I will say about the ending was a little bit surprised. And I know they have to get out of the car, but they make no attempt to go to a petrol station, which is
No, they
bewildering.
literally they literally said it and stuck with that plan. We're going to drive until we run out of fuel.
Dude,
That's the plan.
how about you
Yeah.
try and pick up some fucking fuel on the way?
Oh, not just that. You're in a store where I'm pretty sure they probably sell jerry cans. Pick one of
Yeah,
them
yeah,
up
yeah.
and start siphoning.
I get it, right? In the moment, even if they had that as part of the plan, which they didn't because they just had the groceries, they lose all the stuff on the way up because obviously it's just mayhem. But once they're driving, I'm like, dude, as far as they're concerned, if they don't reach the end of the mist, once they run out of petrol, they're fucking dead. So I'm like, dude, at some point we're gonna have to get some more petrol because I want to be able to drive a little bit fucking longer. So that was one of my big critiques in terms of just this doesn't make sense. But what are you gonna do? Have a fucking petrol scene in there? They keep driving forever. Yeah, the movie has to end. His son has to get shot in the face at some point. So Jesus Christ. Anything else, or are we gonna
No,
end
no,
on
no.
shoot in the face?
Well, I mean, we to be fair, we started on shooting the face. We might as well end on that one.
Why not end there?
Yeah.
All right. So favorite scene. I could pick a whole bunch of them, but I mentioned it previously. Like the pharmacy sequence is wonderfully horrid. I think that's where
Yeah.
Frank Darabont really just lets loose. As I said, I think it purposefully evokes aliens. When they find the bodies in the cocoons, it's like
Yeah.
and the alien comes out. How do you top that? Oh, I know, a body that explodes with spiders. It's fucking gross. And because it's dark in there, it means the CG holds up a little bit better. So, yeah, and just how wrong it goes. And when everyone comes back, that is the moment when the movie truly, the shit truly hits the fan. And you're like, all hope is lost. Let's go to Mrs. Carmody. So I think it delivers an important kind of narrative momentum in terms of like making sense of where the movie goes for like the last 30 minutes as well. But that's probably my favorite scene, which sounds weird because it's horrendous, but you know.
No, great scene. And to be fair, there's quite a few you can mention, but the one that I'm going to pick, which is random, is the first introduction of Brent. When David and Brent have that very awkward conversation about, see your tree fell down. Oh, such a beautiful car. And it starts, you feel the tension ramping up. And then you start to feel, are these guys going to be friends or are they going to be? And then it kind of lets you down a bit because all of a sudden Brent could have been a great antagonist to David, or he could have been a good partner for him for the rest of the film, but he decides to leave. So it kind of lets you down a bit on that part. But their first introduction where they're having that awkward conversation, because they've hinted at that they've had for 3 odd years, they've had this like tumultuous relationship. So I think I enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that scene.
Yeah, and a big reason that kind of scene works so well, obviously it's written well, blah, 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 and it sets up their relationship, even though that relationship doesn't last for much of the film. A big part of it is the fact that Thomas Jane, like in 2007, was a bit of a movie star. So he's coming off The Punisher, which wasn't a big hit, but I really liked him in The Punisher. And when I think of him in The Punisher, I know, was it Punisher 2005?
No, it was 4.
2004. It's not a great movie. I think you said before it's not a Punisher movie, which is understandable.
Yeah,
but I really like Thomas Jane.
He's a great actor. He's a great character for not a Punisher movie. It's not a Punisher movie.
Which is a shame because you got a hint of what he could have done and what his Punisher could have looked like in a more interesting movie with the short Dirty Laundry, it's called.
Yeah,
I think it was
Ron
released
Perlman.
2012. If you get a chance to watch that, it's on YouTube. It's really good and he's fantastic in it. But there was like a brief period when he was being pushed as a big movie star. So another Stephen King adaptation we've not mentioned, probably for good reason, Dreamcatcher. He was one of the stars of that.
Yeah.
I've got, like you say, soft spots for terrible movies. I've got a bit of a soft spot for Dreamcatcher.
I saw that in the cinema. I haven't gone back to it, but I might do it at one point.
I quite fancy rewatch it. Maybe that could be one for the podcast. That would be that really is just a podcast just for us. No one's going to listen to Dreamcatcher, but I'm like, I kind of want to rewatch it.
What coming full circle again, you said then about because Dirty Laundry had Ron Perlman in. He does get Tom Jane as David. When he goes to the pharmacy, he gets his kid a comic. Did you see what comic he got him?
No, I didn't spot it.
So originally, the Frank Darabont said, "Oh, why don't you grab a Punisher comic?" And he went, "No, I'm good." Because he was still having a war, I think, with Jonathan Hensleigh, the director. So he didn't. So he grabbed a Hellboy comic.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, because he was still, probably still is, but friends with Ron Perlman. So yeah,
That's
grab
cool,
a
bringing it
Hellboy comic. Yeah,
background.
yeah.
What was it? So there's one other film he was in. Again, it probably didn't land over here because it's a baseball movie called 61, where he played Mickey Mantle, and it's about
So the
Roger
reason
Maris.
I've seen it, the reason why it didn't land over here,
Mhm.
made for TV film in America.
Oh, was it really? Well, it's
Yeah,
on Sky at the moment, and it's a
yeah,
half decent sports movie, and it's just interesting because it also stars Barry Pepper, who I
yeah.
kind of throw into the same basket of he had this little period in time in the early noughties where like, oh, he could end up being like a really big movie star, and then of course he was in Battlefield Earth, and that was the fucking end of that, which
Do
is
you know who
such a shame.
directed it?
Well, 61.
Yeah, it always
No
it
idea.
always cracks me up. So I know that film as well, 61 Asterix, as it were.
Yeah,
That's
because it's
yeah.
61 is the number of home runs that Babe Ruth hit, and it is very much the story of Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris chasing that record, and the obviously there are different approaches to it, and the impact on Roger Maris in particular, played by Barry Pepper, where he started famously losing his hair because of all the shit he had to take, because nobody wanted them to break. Because Babe Ruth's such a beloved figure in American
Yeah.
sports history, they're just like, we don't want this guy Roger Maris, who we ostensibly just don't like breaking his record. But sorry, the director, I do apologize.
Billy Crystal.
Oh fuck! I did know it was Billy Crystal. I looked
Yeah,
that up when I watched it. Well, I mean, he's a massive baseball guy, in fairness,
yeah.
but he
I know,
loves the
but
Mets though. Wait, is he
Billy
the
Crystal
Mets
is like
or is he Yankees? No, he
oh,
must be a Yankees guy.
don't ask me. I haven't got a clue.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
But
I'm not the one
yeah,
wearing a baseball shirt.
yeah, I do love baseball.
Yeah.
What can I say? I'll watch any fucking baseball movie. It's ridiculous. Um, and there's another one. What's that John Cusack one about the 1990 White Sox who threw the
Oh, Eight Men Out with
8 Men Out?
Charlie Sheen
That's
and
got a great cast, man. But
yeah,
again, didn't get much play over here because it's a baseball film. Fair enough.
Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Should we move on to our loves and hates?
You've already done your loves, haven't you? Baseball, baseball, baseball.
Baseball. Oh, don't tell my to my wife. She's like, all you do is watch and talk about baseball. It's ridiculous. Loves. Great concept and setting. Like I said, the whole social experiment via Al Jatara, I think, is absolutely ingenious. Number two, Toby Jones as Ollie, who I think is secretly envy. I love Thomas Jane in this film, but I think
Yeah.
Toby Jones is absolutely fantastic. And number three, it has to be the fantastically bleak ending, which really is what everyone remembers, almost to the detriment of the movie itself, because the movie's good, but everyone just remembers that fucking ending, dude. So those are my loves.
Well, pretty much the same. I loved, like I said already, 90% of it's set in one place. The mist just brings this like gravitas towards every time you look out. The way they opened the shutters and the mist just didn't come, so it's got a life of its own. It's not coming in,
Yeah.
and then the tentacle comes in. So I think that's great. Ollie as well. I had him down. Toby Jones. I thought he was great. He was just like you when you first see him. He could be classed as weak minded, as just meek. But fucking hell, that guy just.
Well, he's the
no
one
way.
you needed, that character, that idea that everybody like starts panicking. And as I said, we have slightly different opinions on why Brent did what he did. But this idea that everybody thinks they'll act a certain way in that situation, but a lot of them just panic and stuff. And of course, Thomas Jane's David becomes a more traditional hero. But this guy who works in the store probably takes shit from his manager suddenly, and he doesn't look the part at all. But then it just turns out to be a hero. He's just able to deal with the situation. It's just awesome. Without him ever becoming like a superhero, he just becomes competent. He's great in it.
I loved how most people's and this is a love. Most people's go-to weapon was either a ridiculously large knife or a tin of something.
Yeah.
Like that battle at the end where all the bad guys, Mrs. Commodity, oh, the fuck you ever say a name? When the butcher pulled it out, fucking William Sadler pulled two knives out, somebody else pulled a knife out, and then William Sadler's mechanic friend as well just grabs a tin and grab tins.
I was wondering if they were self-aware of it, because there's one bit like that bit at the end when you say where suddenly everyone's got a knife. William Sadler suddenly pulls two knives and he kind of shakes, like he's almost aware of how ridiculous it is that his character has two knives. It's just like, okay, everyone has a knife now. This is so dumb.
I just loved it. It was just ridiculous. But that brings me as well to like, oh, what was her name? The old lady who was great in it.
Oh, she's great. Yeah.
Yeah, when she, and just tin of peas. I'll throw a tin of peas. The go-to weapon is just tin. Irene Repler, that was the name of the character, played by Frances Sternhagen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just a few scenes, just knocks out the park. You want to see her in the car at the end. It's a shame she gets shot, but what can you do? Everybody gets shot.
That's it. That's my loves.
Cool. In terms of my hates, as I mentioned earlier, just one too many Bellends. Maybe it does slightly stretch credulity, and I know that Stephen King specializes in writing horrible characters, and Miss Carmody is one of them. But at one point in the film, and even my wife said, because she was watching the first time, she's just like, "Is everyone here a dickhead?" I was like, "Well, not everyone. At least Ollie's fucking awesome." But yeah, there was one point where it was almost getting a little bit tiring that everyone was a complete dick. Number two, I mean, Mrs. Carmody. It's like she could be under Loves as well because she's so good at being horrendous. Excuse me, played by Marcia Gay Harden. But you do eventually fall down on, like, she's tough to watch in a brilliant way, but very tough to watch. So yeah, she has to make the list. And number three, some of the CG is just starting to show its age, as I mentioned earlier. It's not terrible, but it does. Once or twice it took me out of the movie. So those are my hates.
This is the thing with letting you go first most of the time, right?
It's just the same thing, Joe.
Pretty much. Yeah. I agree with you in regards to she is in my hates list because she does it so well. I hate her because you have to hate her. Marcia Gay Harden is Mrs.
She's very much the nurse Ratchet of this movie, where you're just like, it's an unbelievable performance, but of course you hate her.
I had the CG as well. Because especially like the bugs and things like that. The practical effects they did were awesome. Great, but most of the CG just looked
well, that's the thing, because most of the film looks good. It's not like, what was that film God you picked where it was like, it's all set on like a boat and there's water and there's
Deep Rising.
Deep Rising. Jeez, sorry, I just couldn't remember the title. Deep Rising is one of those films which it's got bad CG, but it kind of doubles down on it. It's too much. With this film, most of the film looks great. So those rare moments when the CG comes through, you're just like, oh yeah, this is 2007. The only other thing that puts it, like, starkly reminds me that it's like, oh, this was shot in 2007. I'm not sure if you noticed, and I'm not sure if anyone out of like the UK would understand this thing, but Thomas Jane's character David has an extreme case of jeans and shoe. Jeans and shoe being SHEUX. So for anyone who's aware of the Six Nations rugby tournament, they all come out at that time of year. So it's kind of like loose jeans at the bottom. I guess you call them like a boot cut, with very pointed brown shoes. It was just a look in the early to mid noughties, and he is absolutely rocking the jeans and shoe look. You only see it, you only notice it once or twice, but it's fucking there, dude.
I will preface this. My third hate is I don't judge anybody for their beliefs. I really don't. I don't believe in an afterlife or anything like that. But I would never.
I believe in nothing, Lebowski.
I would never begrudge anybody that does. Mm-hmm. I struggle on screen when things like this happen and people use the Lord's name all the time and things like that. So I really struggle. And I know it goes back to Mrs. Carmody again, but the whole religious evangelical approach. Thank you. Yeah. It really, really grates me. So
and I think it is supposed to, and I think the great thing, it's not even an attack on religion in this film, because like that one dude who goes out in the film, like the biker dude, he turns around and says, "Listen, I believe in God as well, but I just think your interpretation, obviously this isn't verbatim, but your interpretation is bullshit." So this film is an attack on religion, but that kind of extreme take on religion, which is inherently quite evil and can be used for no good, as it was in this movie.
How we didn't mention that poor bastard. Oh, bless him. Like, he goes, I'm going to get you. I saw when you came in where your shotgun is, so I'm going to go get your shotgun. Oh, bless you, young man. Here's the keys. The shells are in the glove box. And like you said, ripped in twain. They just brought half his body back. And nobody actually mentions, or nothing gets made aware of, something takes the lower half of his body halfway through the film. Something just holds it away. Yeah. But you don't get
you don't get this
sell-off for that,
You actually don't even, like, at one point they mention it. It's similar to, remember with to bring back Aliens again, where you see the eggs and someone says, like, what's laying the eggs? And you kind of like setting up the scene. It's like, well, we're going to find out what's laying those eggs. In this film, it's like, what's attached to those tentacles? I don't think you ever actually find out what's attached to those tentacles. You just have tentacles. There's no monster, clearly, who's all tentacly and shit, like a Cthulhu situation. So even by the end of the film, you're just like, well, something was attached to those giant tentacles. Fuck knows what, but, doesn't really matter, I guess.
Bless his cotton socks. This was his last film, The Mist. He died in 2021, but he's born in 1949, so he's been doing good. But this was his last film. But again, as you say it, Frank Darabont original by the looks of it. He did The Majestic. He did... he was one of Red's friends in Shawshank.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I haven't seen Shawshank for ages. I really should rewatch that.
And he was the sheriff in Green Mile. Don't pick it for a while. I saw it like a week and a half ago.
Oh, no, no, no. I'm not sure if I even want to read. Do I want to do that for the podcast? I don't know. It's a tough watch at times. Very good, though. Very good. Any alternative titles for this film?
Yeah, I got so many tabs up now. I forgot what else. There. Okay. Yeah, we got yeah. So a few of the countries have used the fog. So like Argentina, the fog.
Can't be using the
Brazil,
fog,
the
dude. The
fog.
fog's already
Yeah.
taken.
Well, you've got fog,
There,
Croatia, fog,
there are pirates in the fog. There are monsters in the mist. That's how it works.
Czech Republic, fog. Have we got any other than the fog or the mist? Hang on, I gotta go
Just
down.
the fog or the mist.
Lithuania, disastrous fog.
I guess it is indeed disastrous fog. That's an understatement.
Mexico, super dash natural.
Super dash natural. Okay.
Well,
fair
yeah,
enough.
they put a dash in the middle of supernatural
Yeah,
randomly.
yeah.
so
It kind of gives it a different intonation when you say it's super natural.
North Macedonia, beat it.
Okay. I guess maybe, you know, when you see the fog come in, you should beat it. I suppose.
Yeah.
Very strange.
Portugal, mysterious fog. That's the sequel to Peter Andre's Mysterious Girl, I'm guessing.
Yep. Or the
Romania,
crossover we didn't know we needed between that and, you know, Carpenter's movie.
Romania to winter.
Okay.
Slovakia, Stephen King, thick fog.
Okay.
What if Taiwan, Stephen King's Misty Soul.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah. What else we got here? Oh, Vietnam. Leaving it with Fog Monster.
Fog Monster. That's the best of the bunch, without question.
Yeah.
Fog Monster or Fog Monsters, if you know, if you're going to be more accurate there.
Yeah,
Any
just the
facts?
one.
Oh, sorry. Any facts this one?
Yeah. So Stephen King says that he was genuinely frightened by this adaptation of his novella. Frank Darabont described it as the happiest moment of his career.
Awesome.
During an action scene in the film, a man runs into a wire rotating bookshelf in the grocery store. If you look carefully, you can clearly see that all the books on the shelf are written by Stephen King. Frank Darabont agreed to make the film with Dimension only under one condition, and no matter what, they wouldn't change the scripted ending. They agreed.
Well, he had to get Stephen King on board first, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, he loved it, so...
Yeah. So.
Thomas Jane was a constant and welcome presence in the editing room in an effort to learn the trade as he was heading into his own feature directorial debut, Dark Country. That's an odd film, Dark Country.
Never seen it.
It's like some sort of loop film where driving, they hit a body, but they can't see the body's face, and then the film goes on, and you're never going to see it, so I don't mind spoiling it.
Sounds pretty interesting.
But as the film goes on and stuff, and this body disappeared, blah 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 blah. But then it turns out then that Thomas Jane gets hit by a car.
No,
Gets hit by his car.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. Thomas Jane gets hit by the car that Thomas Jane is driving.
Yeah.
Thomas Jane ends up being the guy in the back seat with no faces. Yeah.
Oh, never even heard of it.
Frank Darabont wanted Thomas Jane to play Rick Grimes on The Walking Dead after they worked together on his film.
He could have totally pulled that off.
Yeah. Originally, Frank Darabont wanted this film to be shown in black and white. The 2-disc DVD Blu-ray release contains Darabont's black and white version of the second disc.
Is that like a nod to The Living Dead, maybe? That's what I can think, because that's another kind of like horror film, relatively small scale, which has a total bummer of an ending. Is that what it was called, the first zombie film? Night of the Living Dead? I think it is.
Yeah, that was
That's the black and white one.
Black and white one, yeah.
Yeah. That's all I can think is that is some kind of stylistic nod to that, but who knows?
The sequence where the flying wasp break through the glass originally included a giant centipede crawling in through the hole as well, but that was cut from the script for timing issues.
It actually reminded me a little bit of that a somewhat underrated scene of Peter Jackson's King Kong when the giant bugs attack them, and some of the deaths in that sequence are fucking gross.
This isn't William Sadler's first time with The Mist. He played David in an audio version of the story.
Ah, cool.
Shot in the 8-week hiatus of The Shield with its cinematographer, 2 camera operators, their editor, and the script supervisor, all of whom the director had worked with when he directed episodes of the show. So I know you mentioned The Shield, but they did it in between.
Ah, fair enough.
Quite funny, yeah.
Yeah, I think because he went to do The Shield to get like a bit more experience in terms of shooting in that very specific style, and then the cinematographers and one of the other cameramen, he liked them so much while working on The Shield, so I'm just going to take you with me.
Yeah. Frank Darabont's shortest film to date. After 2 hours, that's
crazy,
saying something.
bro.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is a long film. It justifies it, but you know, it's not short.
Toby Jones's father, Freddie Jones, appeared in Firestarter, also based on Stephen King. Oh, this is the level we're getting to now. Hang on.
Sorry, we can wrap it up there. Or do you want one more?
Let me see if we got one more. The flamethrower at the end was constructed by the effects department out of parts purchased at Home Depot, which frightened Frank Darabont on all kinds of levels. They just bodged the flamethrower. Yeah,
Fair
it's
enough.
fine. Just do it. Yeah.
Well, because everything seems to catch fire in this film. What can you do?
Yeah.
Hug to the Future. So this really asks the question: remake, sequel, Let It Die, Leave Well Alone. I'm not sure if you're aware. I'm sure you're aware, but there was actually a TV show based on the premise, released in 2017, 19, something
17,
like that.
completely
17.
different character, completely different characters.
Yeah. And it ran
Yeah.
for one series, now it's cancelled. So the answer is just leave well alone. It's this is a really good movie. I don't, like you said, other than one or two moments of slightly dodgy CG, and we're talking, like I said, we're nitpicking it. It's fine. It's totally still watchable. You just know it's like, oh, this is 2007, low budget, computer generated CG. Sorry, that was superfluous. I said the same thing twice, but you know what I mean. But absolutely, just leave this film alone. It doesn't need a remake. Doesn't need a sequel. I don't need to see David in therapy. Yeah, just leave it alone as far as I'm concerned.
Agreed. Just leave it be. They hit the nail on the head with this one. Changed what needed to be changed from the original source material. Did it perfectly. The ending delivers something to each and every person that it needs to give them for their feelings and things like that.
You'll never recreate that ending. You'll never recreate that ending. That was like a one-off.
Yeah, I don't know. You just
How'd you talk? You would have to. The thing is, it becomes like, with every fucking Planet of the Apes movie and stuff. Because if you have an ending which is so memorable, you just like, oh, we've got to try and do something. So you're just sitting there. The problem is you're waiting for something. None of us knew that we were going to get that end. None of us were expecting some massive ending,
No.
And so when it landed, it hit like a ton of bricks. So yeah, just leave well alone.
If you want to take this film and do the CG for today's standards, I'm all right with that. But other than that, no, I'm good.
That's the only thing sometimes. I'm like, everyone gets scared off because of what George Lucas did with Star Wars, where he tinkered and he added. We're not talking about adding. If you could go back to these films from like the mid 2000s, late 2000s, and just tidy them up, that's all you would need to do. And it wouldn't take a huge amount of work. It probably takes more work than I'm letting on. But you know what I mean? There's a world where, even AI could probably fucking tidy up this film, where you don't change anything. You just make it look a touch more convincing, and you've got a near, ideal film. I don't say perfect film because it does have its problems, but this is a great film, and I just wish, same as you, there's maybe two scenes in the film where you're just like, it could do with a touch up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Make a change, I guess I'm tiptoeing. We just said about the whole CG thing there, didn't we? I could make the argument that you could tone down the madness towards the end of the film, and maybe too many fall under Miss Comedy's evangelical spell. But as I said, I think the film does a relatively good job of justifying that. So I am going to go back on what I just said and just touch up the CG.
That's fine. For me, I needed something a bit more with Brent. That ending, that ending where he just disappears. Show me his death. Show me his body on the floor, or have him in there and become a partner to David, and have him, I guess, killed some other way. Because if he's dead, it's unceremoniously. Like his ending just seemed weird to me.
It is odd because they build him up, and they, like, as you say, you picked it as your favorite scene in the film. They have great chemistry, and it's almost a shame that he disappears because you think he's going to go on this journey, and he does at the start where he's they have this back and forth, but he appreciates him, and obviously he lets his guard down, and you could have that whole scene where, like you said, he has his doubts and it's based on fear, and he blows up, but once he calms down, he learns to trust him again. They could almost have like a kind of like a pairing throughout the film. It feels like that's the way it's going to go, but yeah, quite a strange choice. Video games, we've already said, it's Silent Hill.
Silent Hill.
The only way in terms of how I would make it work, I would basically, and this goes into your issue with Brent, I would have the video game happening in the same time frame as the movie, and it starts exactly the same. The only difference is you either play Brent or you play one of the people who works out of the store with him. And basically you survive that kind of first attack, whether it be Brent or one of the other people. And like Silent Hill, you learn kind of like, you have just enough in the way of rudimentary combat. So you're not some fucking badass soldier, excuse me, but you're good enough that you can pick up a stick and beat up bugs. And then basically it runs parallel with what's happening in the shop, but it's just what happens to one of the people when they walk out of the store, and it turns into, it's you and dealing with the town itself. So it's in Maine rather than just in the shop.
Agreed, because as much as it feels like Silent Hill, and as much as this film is great because of the setting, if you're going to do a video game style, you need more. So you
Yeah, yeah,
need
yeah.
to go. You
But you can keep
unless
the narrative. You start exactly the same. You're just one of those characters, and you're just one of the
yeah.
people who don't you get any confirmation what happens to him in the film, like you said, whether it be Brent or one of the people with him, and you just carry on their adventure their
You just
horrific adventure for the next couple of hours.
or you're just David. You don't need like you can just have David. His mission is to get home to find his wife.
No, I like the idea. This is personally now. I'm not telling you no. You can do whatever you want. But I like
Fuck
the
you.
idea that the movie still exists. So like David
Yeah,
still
yeah,
does
yeah.
what David does in the movie, and then you just have this different story, and it
No,
expands upon what we see.
I said the ending was perfect, but I'm trying to get it somehow so the fucking he doesn't have to shoot his kid.
Oh, I don't want another PlayStation game with a dad and a kid. I mean, we've had enough of those now. Jesus Christ, or a dad and a daughter, whatever. And by the way, I'd have it made by Blooper Team, who did the recent remake of Silent Hill 2, admittedly.
Oh yeah. Have you heard anything about that? Is it Silent Hill F?
No, they all went a bit quiet. They announced like a
Yeah.
whole bunch of Silent Hill games. Some of them came out. A lot of them didn't work. But then obviously Silent Hill 2 Remake was a massive hit, which criminally I've still not played. And I think I've kind of decided in my head now I'm going to have to wait until next Halloween now. It's just a little bit too sunny and too bright
Yeah.
for me to be playing Silent Hill. But Silent Hill 2, I mean, I love the first game as well. Silent Hill is like one of my favorite series. So it's definitely in the post, that's for
Are
sure.
you looking forward to Christopher Gans revisiting the Silent Hill films with Silent Hill Returns?
Silent Hill was not a great movie. It's not terrible.
Dude,
It's not,
there's
it's
two
not
films.
Yeah, I know. The first one with Sean Bean as well, and of course he dies.
Yeah.
The first film isn't without
He didn't
its
die.
merit. I thought he died in that.
No. So he
Sure.
no, yeah, she the is it I can't remember her name. She gives what was his name? Radha Mitchell.
Sorry, did I just assume he died because of Sean
Yeah,
Bean?
yeah, because it's Sean Bean. No, I watched them not too long ago for some reason. She's in the alternate world again, but she
Yeah.
manages to sneak the kid through. So at the end of the film, she gives the kid back to Sean Bean.
Okay,
Sean Bean's
okay.
in the sequel. What was the sequel called? Silent Hill Revelation.
Mhm,
And at the end of the film, he's still alive. He
mhm,
chooses to stay in Silent Hill
Okay.
to look for Radha Mitchell, and he sends the girl and Kit Harington on their way to enjoy their life. And then they're
Ah,
picked up by Travis, who was the
mhm.
truck driver in one of the Silent Hill
Is
games.
Kit Harington in it? I've totally forgot
Kit
that.
Harington is in the second one, yeah.
Man, I
And
cannot
then-
remember anything. I just remember
but-
like visually, it kind of there's some good aesthetics, put it that way.
So Revelation wasn't directed by Christopher Gans, I don't think.
No, I think it was a different
Uh,
director, and it didn't
but
get
he-
the reviews are a bit worse as well for the second. I
Yeah,
think.
but he's decided he's coming back, and he's done Return to Silent Hill. I think he's finished it, so it's coming out at some point.
And listen, I would give it a chance. I mean, again, we were talking before this podcast. We have very different views on our trust in reviews. Silent Hill would need to get some decent reviews before I even consider it, because the
It's
other
not
films
getting
aren't
decent
great.
reviews though.
It probably isn't, but I would want it to be good. That's the difference. I'm like, man, if someone just told me it's half decent and not a complete dumpster fire, then I'm going to go give it a shot. But we'll see what happens.
Is Christopher Gans or however you say, is he a name of like a director you know?
No,
No, okay. Because I've known his name for a while. I'm thinking how though, and then he's only done 5 films, right?
Mhm.
And I've seen, and probably you as well. I'd say you've seen at least one or two of these. I've seen 3 of his 4 films, and this 5th one is Return to Silent Hill. So he did Crying Freeman with Mark Dacuscus back in
Jesus
95.
Christ, yeah, that's
That was
back.
based on a manga.
yeah.
Crying
I remember that
Freeman, great film. But then he did.
You say it with such confidence.
I love Crying Freeman. Then he did Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Oh shit, that was him.
That was him
That was quite good. That was quite
Yeah.
good.
again with Mark Dacuscus.
Yeah. I
And
have
then
not
he
seen
did-
it for a long time, but I remember it being half decent at least.
And then he did
Better than
Silent Hill.
it's better than Crying Freeman, just to be clear.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Then he did Silent Hill, and then he
is
disappeared
okay.
until 2014, and he did some sort of French Beauty and the Beast. I want to say.
knows.
And
Strange old career.
Oh yeah, and then he's
He's
coming
back.
back with Return to Silent Hill. Well, back
Listen.
is probably a strange one.
Silent Hill, very much back. Sometimes people get it right the second, third time around. We'll see. In terms of
Fair
best
play.
and worst
This-
oh, sorry.
Sorry, this
Sorry?
podcast has gone off the rails like 7 times.
It
You
really
keep trying to
has.
bring it
Yeah.
back, bless you.
Well, someone has to. We said before the podcast we didn't want this to turn into another 2-hour podcast because somehow our Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome just went miles over time. Like usually our podcast is like an hour and 20. That one's like near enough 2 hours, and we just don't know how it happened. This one, if it turns out to be 2 hours, I'm like, oh yeah, it's because we talked about 72 different movies. Ridiculous. So yeah, back to this film, best and worst of IMDb. I reckon a lot of people have reviewed this. I'm going to guess 987.
1,519.
Ooh, that's a lot.
Yes, it's a lot
Jeez,
of
I didn't
people.
think I was miles off. 10 star. I think a lot of them, man. I, of 1,500.
No, yeah.
372.
Oh, I was going to say, don't go as high as you think you're going to go. 187.
Oh, I thought maybe it'd be a higher percentage because a lot of people love this film.
Yeah. Written in November 2007, titled Classic Horror in a Postmodern Age. Let me take a breath. Never have I had such a visceral physical reaction to a film, ever. Not even with LM Kilmov's Come and See. In the last 15 minutes, I was nearly physically paralyzed and then started shaking, realizing how numb my body was. And I am dead serious. Frank Darabont's adaptation of Stephen King's novella goes heads above a 50s, 60s monster movie homage. This is a grade A, chilling, terrifying, unsettling, and utterly hopeless cinema in line with the most cynical and depressing classics from the 70s. The mist itself and the monsters it brings are just the appetizer here. As all good horror should be, this explores the ultimate enemy, ourselves. In short, one of the most beautiful, thrilling, and terrible times I've had at the movies. To elaborate, it isn't a pitch perfect film. Some of the CGI at the beginning is weak, and there are a few lines that can't escape the genre. But other than that, this is a home run in every department. The performances, especially from Toby Jones and Marcia Gray Harden, the ingenious handheld camera, which is never used as a gimmick, the sound design, the lack of an underscore, this lends to the great atmosphere and tension Darabont builds. I'm sure you can guess by now this isn't schmaltzy, sentimental Darabont here. This is an angry, maniacal man that rears his head and shouts, "Everything is lost," and then shoots you in the gut. Any fan of Stephen King, The Twilight Zone, or Ray Bradbury will greedily devour this with a great big grin on their face, then feel very sick, but so damn happy, and then throw up. Best film of the year yet. Wow.
I agree with just about everything said in that review. And it's something we've got to mention ourselves, actually. I wrote that down, is the lack of a score, which is ingenious.
Yeah.
It kind of grounds everything. And, like you said, those we mentioned the zombie and the influence of movies from the 60s and 70s. And
Yeah.
you feel that influence from the 70s in particular, just how grim this movie is willing to be, which a lot of modern films just aren't willing to do that, especially when it comes to, you can do it with like a more kind of traditional horror, but when it's more of a character study, to go this grim is pretty bold. So yeah, and even mentioned the fact that it's not perfect, but what works in this film works really well. So I agree with nearly all of that. There's going to be some people who are giving this a 1-star review, I suppose. 21.
I'll give you a hint. It's higher than 187.
Who give this 1?
Yeah.
Fuck! I thought it'd be
I know.
super
Yeah,
low.
I thought it'd be low. Yeah, it's 254.
Wow. That is literally, of all the times we've done this, and you told me how many people have given them 1 stars, 10-star reviews and stuff, and I've been off a few times, but I've never been that far off.
So I'm obviously we pick one at random, and I'm going to stick with the one I picked at random. But I want to read 2 titles of 2 other ones I saw for you because these titles are fantastic.
Mhm.
So the first one, the title just says, "Come on, people, 7.6. Really?"
So he's just annoyed at like the IMDb score, basically.
And the other one, titled "A Film That Should Definitely Be Missed."
Oh,
Yeah.
that was worth it for that, in fairness.
Yeah.
If you're going to give a 1-star review, you better come with a title like that. Fair enough.
All right, but I said I'm going to go with the first one I picked. Title, written in April 2008, titled "Run. Don't stare at it and scream." I really expected a lot coming into this movie, considering it had a rating on this site of 7.5. The entire time I found myself yelling, "What are you doing?" Almost everything the characters did was horror film stereotypical. As monsters ran towards them, they stood there and screamed instead of running. The crazy lady trying to kill a 10-year-old child somehow had acquired a huge band of followers within 24 hours, who also felt that somehow God would appreciate it. They stabbed the child to death. Along with the army guy, it made absolutely no sense why anyone would listen to her at all. They should have duct taped her mouth shut from the beginning. Overall, I was extremely annoyed by how predictable this movie was and how I felt like I needed to dumb myself down in order to watch it. I couldn't think logically about anything that was happening, or else I would have turned it off. So I had to pretend that it was convincing just so I could finish watching it. The ending made me totally nauseous. No one would ever do what this man did. You battle the monsters for days and risk your life repeatedly, and then you think that running out of gas means quit? No, You would not shoot two old people, your own 10-year-old son and the woman holding him, and spare yourself. That's ridiculous. The personalities that these people had, sorry, the personalities that these people had, we not the type of personalities that would accept giving up. Okay.
Fair enough.
And the fact that they didn't join the crazy lady's band of insanity shows that the man was not a psycho and would not have shot his child in the head and not himself. I realized it was to spare them from the monsters, but no one in their right mind could do that. Every mission he went on was life threatening, and all of these people put their lives at risk by getting in that car. So why commit suicide? They wouldn't. It was stupid. Well, that ending really affected him. And did he not see the fact that David kept pressing the trigger after the fact? Like
Yeah,
he didn't spare himself.
No. He didn't want to. That's they kind of missed the point. And I think somebody going into this was expecting, again, a more kind of traditional, maybe modern style movie where everybody acts with a modicum of common sense. And this movie, its whole kind of, modus operandus is almost, people wouldn't react like that. It's like, how bad would things get, if you don't have heroes in the room, if people are just that terrified? And, we're accustomed to seeing these things on screen, but how would you really react if, all of a sudden there was just mist and giant tentacles and people dying in horrible ways? A lot of people would just go to shit. And obviously that's just been missed. But of course, they were probably expecting and hoping for a more traditional horror film, which this isn't, which this absolutely isn't. So yes, I absolutely agree wholeheartedly with the 10-star review and completely disagree with the 1-star review. Unsurprising. Which brings us to our own ratings and recommendations, which, might lead you to believe that I was going to give this movie a 5-star review. I'm actually going to give it a 4-star review. It's a very high 4-star review. As we mentioned, over the past God knows how many hours we've been talking about this film and 72 others. It does have its issues, but it's a really, really strong 4-star review and a really strong recommendation. I have recommended this movie to a lot of people, and after rewatching it again, as I said, mine and Niggles aside, it's still totally recommendable. And if somehow you've listened to this podcast and you haven't seen it before, it's still on Amazon Prime. So yes, I'm going to recommend it to you as well. So 4 and a yes from me.
It's pretty much the same. It was a 4 for me as well. There's just some things that knock it down from the 5, mainly the CGI and stuff like that. But it's a 4. We decided on last week how we were going to use the rating of, not the rating, the recommending thing. So if somebody come up to me and said, "Oh, The Mist, should I watch it?" Absolutely, I would recommend it to you. You should definitely watch this film. It's so good, and it brings up emotions that you probably don't want. Not even the ending.
Yeah. Oh,
Not just the ending, the whole film. Yeah, like
this film's grim all the way through.
yeah.
It's a tough watch.
Would you follow Mrs. Carmody? Would you be David? Would you be fucking William Sadler? Just yeah.
Like, and honestly, that's the thing. Even if you don't put yourself in that position. The whole Mrs. Carmody thing, I guess, a big part of the film is going, do you believe that some people would eventually follow her? And I think that the movie takes you on an interesting adventure in that respect. And as I said, every time you think, oh, that's impossible, you think back to the extreme version, Nazi Germany, and the book and the movie, The Wave, and how quickly under certain social structures things can go to pot and people can be pushed in a certain direction. There's a whole book on these social experiments about how people under certain levels of duress end up doing absolutely bonkers things. And how can you recreate being stuck in a grocery store with giant tentacle monsters killing everyone? So I think it's a super interesting movie. As we said, not perfect, but absolutely 4 stars and absolutely recommend. So yeah,
I'll tell you right now. As I said, you put yourself in people's shoes. If you put yourself in the Shermanator shoes, you deserve to die.
Absolutely.
I'll go outside.
But even David gives him the out though, doesn't he? Because he is a dumbass, but he's like, he's allowed to be a dumbass. He's a kid.
He's a kid.
He even says it's like, he's just doing it because he wants to impress the adults. It's not his fault. He's a dumb teenager. That's what dumb teenagers do. And especially if they're put into one of these situations where they're trying to impress their quote unquote tough guys. So even that's dealt with brilliantly in this film. Yeah, it's a fucking great film. Just go out and watch it. As for next week, because that's the end of our end of the World Series of podcasts, and I think we need a change of pace. Although when I mentioned this to my wife, she says one of the characters in it particularly absolutely terrified her as a kid. So I told her she'd probably get over it now. But I can understand why it's a tough watch. But fundamentally, I don't think this is a terrifying movie. It's just got one especially potentially terrifying character, especially if you watched it at a certain age. So the year is 1988.
1988. Okay, no anymore.
The director is Robert Zemeckis.
Ooh, 88 Zemeckis.
Mm-hmm. It's almost amazing that we haven't done this film before. And I've not seen this film for donkey's years. But it's a big one.
What did he do after Back to the Future?
What did he
Go on.
do to Back to the Future? Bob Hoskins is the star.
Oh, fucking hell. Fuck me, it was Zemeckis, is it?
Yeah. Who Framed Roger
Roger
Rabbit?
Rabbit, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? I mean, Robert Zemeckis, like his whole thing has been pushing special effects to one extent or another throughout his career. And
I know
this was a movie which was
incredibly. Was it Christopher Lloyd as the?
Of course, it was Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah, as the killer.
Everyone remembers when he kills the shoes with the face.
Yeah.
So yeah, like his character's pretty fucked up in this film, actually, and
Especially when he becomes the tune at the end.
Yeah,
Remember me, Eddie?
Yeah, like you can understand why if you watch as a certain age, that character might absolutely fucking scare the shit out of you. But it's a really, really interesting film.
I wonder
but one I've not seen in a long time. And if you have any interest, it's available on Disney Plus if you have it.
I wonder what my kid would think of it. I wonder if
that'd be an interesting one.
Quite animated, so maybe I can get him to sit down and watch it.
Yeah, maybe. I think that's the magic of the film is that, obviously on the one part, it's like a private dick kind of neo-noir film. And on the other side, it's got every Disney character you can imagine. And that's one of the amazing things of this film. Like, I guess the only thing that comes close to it is Ready Player One, with Steven Spielberg basically going to everyone and saying, can I have the rights to everything? And nobody says no to Steven Spielberg. And apparently nobody said no to Robert Zemeckis in 1988 because, this has got all kinds of characters in it.
I mean, the little shit has made me watch Sonic 3 more than I can fucking fathom. So
I like Sonic 3, but I don't think I need to see it more than once. But
I like Sonic 3. I think Sonic 3 is a good film, but I don't need...
Is it the best Sonic film?
I think so. I
like the first one.
The first one was good, but no, I like this one, like the story and everything.
Yeah, it's either the third or the first one.
It's not needed to watch like every other day though. So
make him watch this.
Yeah. Sit down and watch it.
Who knows? Maybe you'll have. I don't want to talk about is having an awakening about Jessica Rabbit. I feel like that was a big deal for a lot of kids, though. Jessica Rabbit. It's like, wait, am I allowed to think she's hot? I don't know.
What do you mean for a lot of kids? For a 42-year-old man, I still think she's fucking hot.
That's fair enough. But like you said, I don't think I've seen this film for like legitimately 20 years.
Oh, we're talking 90s, I think, the last time I saw this film.
Yeah, maybe. So, we talked about this film a few times and we just keep forgetting it. And it's randomly popped into my head. It's like, fuck, yeah, basically, because I was looking for something quite colourful and large. Obviously, there is one slightly evil character, but largely lighthearted by comparison. So, I think this is going to be an interesting one. And I have no idea how it's held up, but we'll find out next week. So please do join us for Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And thanks for listening to The Mist this week. Anything else to add before we wrap this up, bro?
Only the fact that you surprised me by saying 1985 for Mad Max, and now you surprised me again by... Of course, this is Zemeckis, but I would not have put Zemeckis on this film. So...
it's one of those films. Yeah. If you'd asked me before who directed this, I'm not 100% sure I would have said Zemeckis. But as soon as I heard Zemeckis, I'm like, oh yeah, of course. But I know what you mean. If this was the other way around and you had said 1988 and you had said Robert Zemeckis, I don't think this would have immediately popped into my head. Put it that way.
No. But no, nothing from me, mate. I am being given the signal to go and make food. So
fair enough. Yeah, I'll be having the same thing soon. Okay, I've been Liam. He's been Rob, and you have been listening to the Hey Guys podcast. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys. Bye now.
Oh, and before I forget, where can folk reach us if they were so inclined to?
Well, you can actually reach us on Hey You Guys 80s at Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. But if you want to send us a mail, do heyyouguys80s@gmail.com. Send us in your recommendations. Send us in your thoughts about any of the episodes. Just literally talk to us. We'll have a one-sided talk with you on the podcast.
Yeah. We're nice folk. Get in touch. But no, cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye now.
Hey, you guys!